Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Leadership Talks for Emerging Leaders. Leadership Talks is a podcast hosted by Leadership Card, a leadership coaching training organization. Leadership Card is the brainchild of four individuals, Sandhu, Asish Datta, Ram Ramakrishnan, and Devesh Modi, who share a common vision to support 1 million emerging leaders to solve problems for self, others, and the organization. Leadership Card runs leadership programs for individual contributors and corporate clients. And our young coaches have over 100 years of experience and come from diverse fields. Every week on Leadership Talks, we invite leaders from varied fields to share their stories to accelerate your growth journey. So stay tuned to the end as we add new value, new knowledge to you. I'm your friend, Sandhu, a leadership communication coach, and I'm hosting today's episode along with Mr. Asish Datta on entrepreneurial self-leadership in IT. Over to you, Ashish.
Thank you, Kiran. We have the privilege of having as our guest today Mr. Anjan Choudhary, founder and enterprise solutions architect at 11D Solutions USA. 11D Solutions provide technology solutions to various large corporations across USA. During his career spanning close to 4 decades, Anjan has been associated with various organizations, including the likes of Siemens, Capgemini, Dow Chemical, ExxonMobil, and fashion outlets like Express. Anjan says, I love my independence from corporate politics and enjoy the work with technology as I continue to learn new technology. That's a very interesting point, and we'll deal more into it when we talk to him. Anjan holds an engineering degree in Aerospace Engineering and a postgraduate degree in Production Engineering. He's an alumnus of the two prestigious IITs, IIT Kharagpur for his graduation and IIT Delhi for his post-graduation. Anjan is a technology geek. He has developed numerous applications, and I can spend a full day talking about that. Currently, Anjan is fascinated by quantum computing, a new technology in a very nascent stage. I can go on and on about Anjan, but in the interest of time, I'll stop there and welcome Anjan to our program. Anjan, thank you very much for being on our show. Welcome. We're really indeed very glad to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. Yeah.
So, Anjan, let me start by asking what an interesting aspect about you, where you say you love your independence from politics, bureaucracy, you want to be on your own learning technology. That's a very interesting perspective. And I say this from my experience because I sometimes wonder, is it really possible to be out of all that? Mm-hmm. So that would be my question. That isn't it something that we encounter in any way, in whichever intensity? Can we really be out of it? And if you think so, how do we do that?
Well, you make a fascinating point. The fact is, what I meant by my independence is basically, when you are an employee, you're trying to go up the ladder in a corporate setting. You are kind of at you have to conform to the certain norm, culture, and you have to basically navigate your way through by that. Now, obviously, your point is right on that you cannot avoid politics when several people are working together. But that's what the politics is all about, because it's always there. You can never get rid of that. What I meant by my independence is that I'm not held by their. They don't determine my career progress. My clients are my clients. Like I deliver a service, I provide a service to them, and they either appreciate it and all that. So it's like the relationship between me and these big corporations as my clients, not like they're my employer, so to speak. That's what I mean. Bureaucracy, yeah. So every big corporation has a lot of bureaucracy in it, and you can't always avoid it and maybe there are reasons for that. like SOX compliance and all that. Because of it, even to prevent fraud, people build all this bureaucracy and things like that. So yeah, so the bureaucracy is still there. Politics is still there. When I'm talking to my clients, I have to be, cognizant about uh, their preferences, their feelings, their, you know, whatever the culture they come from. So it's there, but it's not like I'm not held to that. I'm not bound to that, and they don't determine my career path. That's what I meant by independence.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm thinking now I'm getting those insights. And so what you're saying is it's not that you can be away from bureaucracy in politics.
Right.
Those are things which will always be there, and you have to find your way to deal with it.
Right.
In an organization context, you're driven by the manner that they define that they have to be dealt with. Where here, you're trying to find your own path to deal with bureaucracy and politics, and how you carve it forward, your own disposition to do.
Yeah.
But it's not that you're away from that. Did I summarize correctly?
Yes,
Is it?
you're right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. And that's a very important point for young leaders. We learn a lot. We see a lot of things. But ultimately, you have to devise what works best for you and work them. It is not about staying away from that. It is going through that through your own disposition, have your own action plan. And that's what I also say. We have to derive our own action plan. What has worked for somebody else may not work for you. And I think that's the point you're making. Find your own way. That's very interesting. And I think I have a better insight to that.
Yeah.
So let me now ask you about your entrepreneurial journey. You started off in the corporate as an employee, and then, if I'm allowed to say, an entrepreneur bug bit you, and you went into entrepreneurship. Uh, in a way, it could have been a risk for you. I'd like to hear about that, how you made your mental state to that, how you went through those challenges and problems, and what you overcome, and what those you faced to become the kind of person and the entrepreneur that you are today.
Right. Very good question. Yeah. So yes, it was after I graduated. Obviously, I was working in corporate settings, and it was. My parents didn't obviously want me to go out and do something on my, like, start off somewhere, independently do something. They felt reassured when I worked for big companies like Siemens and all that. So it was a hard decision when I decided to leave Siemens, because I realized that I need to do something on my own. I need to be my own pathfinder. Like, I need to find my own ways to do things. And so that's the reason I left. Of course, the first opportunity that I had I was not all alone. It was a group of people that we were setting up. So that worked pretty well. We worked really hard, and we had a good team. We built it. We provided training. We built a new team altogether of developers who were ready to hit. Very quickly we got started coding and delivering stuff. But it wasn't like, it was still. I never felt like I owned the company. Somehow that connection was still not there. It wasn't like I was owning. I was part of the whole thing, building it up. So I decided to look for a consulting position where I could be on my own, and that's when I got a break. Now there are challenges. Obviously, being independent, you're not part of the. Like, let's say you work for SAP, you have all the trainings you can get. You have access to all the information you get. But being an independent, obviously, you have to just go out, learn on your own. Sometimes you may have to go to a training, like go to a school or some training course, take it. And then you have to learn on your own new things and then apply that. I found that after a few years, I found like, I could do that. It comes to me. It's not like I struggle to do that. I did. It requires a lot of hard work. You have to learn. You have to be ready to adapt new technology. You cannot be complacent that, I can keep doing the same thing again and again. So those are the challenges definitely there. There were risks, of course. And it's not like an assured gig, But fortunately, it comes down to selling. Like everything at the end comes down to selling. You have to convince that I can do that, and then I need a few things to show them that I can demonstrate. Once I do that, people see what values I bring in, and then it becomes easier. After that, it becomes easier. Initially, so that's how I've overcome my situations. Other thing is that you have to be honest. You have to be forthcoming. You just can't really put up a facade and lie about your skills, which you do not have. You cannot pretend that you know a subject where you have to really know it.
Yeah. I'd like to talk a little more about that point of risk. A lot of us are there, and a lot of young leaders today, they want to do something on their own.
Yeah.
They're stuck in the corporate, but it's difficult to take the risk, you said, both from the family aspect and yourself. How do you overcome? How do you get into a mental state? Okay, I can take the risk, and what precautions you need to take for that?
Actually, I honestly believe that when you decide to go on your own, you have to go full. Like there's no turning back. You just cannot. You cannot go half-hearted. That's what I mean. Like you have to go with all your passion, all your motive, everything in your entire being has to be part of that. It is so. It's difficult if you're not. But the point is that you cannot just choose that I will do this and have a safety net. You may not have a safety net. That's the point. So you have to somehow hedge your risks. You have to find ways to do that, and you can find. I mean, you will find it if you're thinking about a problem. You'll find a solution to that. It's not that you won't. It's not possible. It's definitely possible. But the thing is about you have to be passionate about what you want to do, and then pursue it. Pursue it. You have to pursue what you want to do. Without that, you cannot succeed.
Yeah. You make a very interesting point. I think the key point which is coming out is we all look for when we want to do something on our own, our passion. That safety net is very important. Okay, can I survive for 2-3 years? So you make a very important point there. Don't think about that safety net because that's what pulls us back. Yeah. And second is to go full hog into it and face the problems. And in a way, I would say also, when you are in a problem, you will definitely find a solution, is it not? Unless this is what gets you in, is it not? So very interesting. Those are very key takeaways for our young leaders, correct? So
as a matter of fact, necessity is the mother of invention. So
absolutely.
When you're pressed, you'll find a way.
But I'm going to add on, Anjan, that everybody does not have that conviction to say that I can get into it wholeheartedly without having a safety net. So I mean that's a whole because there's a lot of fears to do something.
Yes.
The fear of going alone, just like what you said. Now, unless you're comfortable being alone, you will want to be around. What you just said about resources, community, access. These are things that suddenly you're in isolation and. Many times, it also is something that we need to address with our listeners today is that there is access, there is isolation, there is thing, but are you willing to invest the time until you get that breakthrough to show your capability?
Yes.
So that's a threshold that you have to be able to pass.
Yeah.
So Anjan, what would you say? How do we build that conviction? I mean, where does it come from? I mean, I would say it has to be a strong mindset for you to be able to do it. But having risk-taking abilities, what do you have to say on that?
So I believe everybody has the ability to take some risks. It's a question of how you see yourself in the whole world, right? So you obviously, we all, when we start off, obviously we don't know what we want to do. When I graduated, honestly, I didn't know what I was going to end up doing, right? Initially, I thought, okay, I've had enough of studies. I'll just go work. It didn't take very long for me to go back to studies again, pursue my master's, because I found that what I'm doing here, I can easily do it, but I'm not seeing any. What I want to achieve, I'm not going to achieve that by staying in this organization. So that's the reason I thought I'll go learn something more and then come back and see what happens.
So I think then having options also gives the person the conviction to really find their own identity and where do they really fit in.
Exactly.
And that's the resilient mindset you need to be developing to keep overcoming the challenges and the blockages that you might be having to keep going forward. Okay. Thank you so much, Anjan. Over to you, Ashish.
Yeah, I'm really loving this discussion. A lot of key points are coming, and I'm sure the listeners will benefit. Because a lot of us really want to get into entrepreneurship, but then that mindset is really stopping us. Indeed, very interesting. So, Anjan, let me now move to another important aspect, which is self-leadership. More so for an entrepreneur. I believe that it's all about leading yourself. Even if you are in a corporate, you have to lead yourself, that thing, to be able to go there. And more so from you as an entrepreneur, as well as a consultant, you have to be always leading yourself to what you want to achieve, that goal. So it's not more about entrepreneurship, but I think that's overall. And would you say that this is the foundation of building yourself, to first leading yourself? And then I would like to know how you did it yourself. What are those key skills you developed, and what our young leaders will need today to be able to become good self-leaders?
Right. So one thing I say is that there's a song by Pink Floyd. It's in the Dark Side of the Moon album. He says, "Look around, choose your own ground." Okay. So there you basically have to. You may not know everything to begin with, but you look around, see where you can really excel, you can shine, and you can figure that out. And the point is, like, you need to figure out whether you want to be a people leader or you want to be a technology leader. You want to be you could choose to be build your career based on people manager, like you manage people, you lead people to them. Obviously, you have to lead people to do anything in any organization. But some people would like to also, spend more time on the technology side. They don't want to be necessarily the manager, because that's not what drives them. But they can have a great idea, and they may have to just find the right people with whom they can collaborate and make that happen. At the end, so it becomes like, what drives your passion, what you want to do, and you have to figure that out. Whether it's you want to do with a specific direction, or if you have an idea, just go out and just try to implement that. Sometimes I feel like that many times I even have ideas now. Almost I'm so old now. I still have great ideas. I don't know if I'll have energy to execute them anymore. But so there are many ideas that people definitely come across. And when you're young, that's the time to do it. That's when you actually achieve the most, when you're young.
Very nice. So I love what you just said. Look around, choose your own ground. I mean, everybody has to choose their own path, and how do they want to move forward on that path and navigate those dark holes. And that now we started off with this thing where you talked about being independent, and you loved your independence from corporate politics. That's one aspect of you choosing to be independent. But in this whole journey of your self-leadership and your growth as a leader, you have managed teams, right? You've led teams.
Yeah.
And when there are more than one person, there is also conflict. And that also means that you need to be managing those conflicts within the team.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I would say there's also conflict comes two ways. One is conflict with self and one is conflict with teams. But let's keep it to the team's point of view. That how do we build more resilient teams and leaders?
Yeah.
even though we try to say that everybody's on the same wavelength, same path, but how do we do it? There's always conflict. So how do we build that resilience in our teams?
So one thing is, so resilience in a team is, team should be able to deliver no matter what, no matter what the situation is. And that resilience comes from obviously the team itself. Every person in that team, every player in that team is a team. Like, it's not like one individual. So you can't just have one individual, running the whole thing. And everybody has their own skills. So what I think, and many describe it as like a T-shaped skill, like people have certain skills. They're deep, like in that. Let's say one guy is very good in user interface design, so that's his depth. But the person also knows the other aspects of the software design, so they can pick up. Let's say there's a Slack, that person can chip in, build that part of it. So that I'm talking about the knowledge at this point, right? Apart from knowledge, you have to let the team decide how they want to do it. So one of the greatest things I've seen is the method called agile methodology, and I've seen that's when a team performs the best. What they do is let the team decide what they want to do, how they want to do, at what cadence. But you give them this list of tasks at a certain deadline that this needs to be delivered, and they let them figure it out. And you provide them with the resources, with the support that they need. Any conflicts you have, any blockers that they run into, you go out and resolve those as a leader. But let the team figure out the solution. That way, team delivers it, and they will always continue to deliver, regardless. If you have a turnover from the team, or turnover is name of the game. Like people don't stay in one team. They keep moving.
So and then could we add on? I mean, now we have basically said the team is going to deliver. As a leader, your responsibility is to create the environment where they can deliver by giving them the access of resources that they need and creating timelines and deadlines through which they can work. But the rest is on them. However, how can you talk a little bit more about the team culture and team communication that is required to make it, to bring in that part where they are able to do those things with conviction?
Yes. So communication is a very important thing. It has to be transparent. If the direction where the team needs to go, that direction, that information must be clearly communicated. You need to get a clear feedback from the team whether what is holding them back. So they have to be forthcoming. There should not be a situation where they are afraid of talking. So that culture basically would kill the team. Would choke the team and performing anything. So that's very important thing. The team culture is so communication, transparency, and honesty. The leader has to be very honest with the team about what the situation or what the goals are and what they need to deliver.
So I'd like to add on a question here with the practical scenarios that we face is, okay, we are building the culture, we are letting the team decide. But as a leader, we face a lot of pressure from the top bosses or the management. There's always a conflict. The team can deliver this much, but there's a lot of pressure. How can the leader take that and then see that the team is still giving their best in terms of that?
Exactly. So there is so as a leader, you have to also talk to the stakeholders. The stakeholders are who are basically looking for the goods that you are producing, right? Your team is delivering the stuff. And in that case, you have to talk to the stakeholders saying, this is what you wanted, this is what is possible to do because of the current capacity or whatever, because they are also working on these are the tasks that you asked for previously. If your priorities have changed, then let's take a look at that, reprioritize our work, and then we come up with a more reasonable goal. So that way you are satisfying the stakeholder, saying that what can we do now and what we can change direction. And this also gives you the agility, the flexibility that the business requirements keep changing, the environments keep changing. It's not that stakeholders can always tell, seize the future completely, that this is exactly how 3 years would run. Things will change. There are other situations that come. COVID came and hit, right? And nobody could foresee such a situation. And then your requirements would change. You'd have to adapt to that. Adaptation is the most critical thing for a team to survive and be resilient.
Absolutely. And so that's communication both ways, you're saying. Set the right expectation now, and that's the key part of it, is what I understand. And that's very true. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Kiran.
So much, Anjan, for bringing in all the elements of how we can have a resilient team and how you have to be mapping the stakeholders, whether it's the bosses, whether it's the team, everybody has to be mapped for their roles, their responsibilities, so they can do their deliverables as defined by you, the organization, or what is required by the people. Now we're nearly close to this, the end of our show. I mean, we're talking and we're really enjoying it. I'm sure there are many takeaways, but I would ask you, Anjan, that with your 3+ decades in this industry, what would be your advice to our young listeners today, emerging leaders who are listening to us today? Your advice.
My advice would be to basically, what I said before, like, first you find your field, where you want to shine, and then you have a vision what you want to achieve, and take your team to that direction, and make sure that like in the current business, in the current situation, things change very quickly because of many different factors, technology, other reasons, geopolitical, many things can shape your business situation. And so the leadership basically, essentially provides a way to prepare the team and then deal with that current situation. So my advice would be to always be aware of what's going on. Keep yourself completely, keep yourself updated. So keep learning things. Don't stay in a silo. Like, look around, see what's happening, and where things could change. Try to forecast, what could happen, in 2 years. There are a lot of disruptive technology coming into the picture. Auto industry is getting disrupted by electric vehicles, right?
Yeah.
And so things will change, and be prepared for that. And like, obviously we don't know everything, but you can at least see where things are. Like, you can see the cloud coming, or you can see the clouds are disappearing.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anjan. I would start by saying that it was a very insightful session. And one of my key takeaways was, master your own path, carve your own destiny, have that conviction and stand by it. But that will require you to believe in what you are. Don't wait for that safety net. It probably never come. But if you are willing to take those risks in life for pursuing the passions that you have, you will get to where you want. So with that, I would like to say thank you to Anjan for joining us all the way from the US. Leadership Talks for Emerging Leaders will be back next week with another leader to share their journey. For more information, join the Leadership Card Facebook page and stay tuned for Leadership Talks on Emerging Leaders on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, LinkedIn, and Facebook. With this, I would like to say thank you to Anjan, and this is Kiran and Ashish signing off till we meet next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjan. Thank you. Bye to the viewers.
Thank you for having me.